This time of year, I always start thinking about the beach, even though it's too cold to go out. Hi, my name is Leslie, and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIYs and home decor and more. My husband and I took a trip to Rockport, and I just fell in love with that New England beachy cottage kind of style. And since it's too cold to go to the beach, we're going to recreate some of that for our home decor. Now, for those of you who stick around to the very end, I'll have a hint on one of next week's projects. So, let's get started. And here is a sneak peek at the 4 projects that we're going to be working on today. Get a quick look because we are about to get started. And here is project number 1. I think this turned out so cute. So this is all made of scrap pieces of wood, a little 2x6 that had previously been painted. I just sanded down some of the paint, and fence post pieces and stir stick paint pieces. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the fence post pieces and I am cutting roofs on them. And after I put my miter box away with my miter saw, I pulled out my miter shears, and you can see I am taking these old paint stir sticks and making little doorways now. I just thought I would use up some of these old scraps today and make something super cute and adorable with it. So as you can see, the miter shears are flopping that stuff all around, and once I've gotten all the pieces for the roofs and the doors and the things by the side of the windows, they are called shutters. Wow, what a thought there. I am going to kind of rustic these all up and give them an aged appearance without actually aging them. That's the beauty of using fence pieces, is that they're already aged. But if you don't have all the fence pieces and you're using new pieces of wood, you can get that same worn, aged appearance by using a combination of antique wax and white chalk paint. I'm also going to be using a little bit of the pool colored chalk paint and moss colored chalk paint to achieve my rustic, aged, worn kind of look on this piece. Now, if you don't have any scrap pieces of wood hanging around, you can pick them up at your local hardware store or building supply store. Some of these pieces could come from Dollar Tree or any other craft supply place. So now I am cutting down the wood for my roof on this. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but that wood actually was part of a pallet piece that I took apart from a piece I bought at Dollar Tree. And now I'm going to be rusticking up my door, and again, I just kind of add a little bit of white chalk paint, a little bit of blue chalk paint, a little bit of sanding it off with my heavy duty nail file there, a little bit of antique wax, and I just keep playing with it until I get the appearance that I like and that I think looks beachy. You can hardly go wrong in kind of mixing all the colors together, and because if you don't like it, you just sand it off and start over again. And sometimes just giving it a good old sanding makes it have the appearance you want. So now I'm going to take this as an extra fine Sharpie marker, and I am making a window. So I just made 4 little squares and colored them in with the black Sharpie, and then took a really fine paintbrush and added a little bit of blue paint around it to give it that window appearance. And now I'm going to do the same thing with another window on either side of that door, and going to be using my little shutters I made. You know, it's funny because I often heard one of the YouTubers, and I can't think of what her name is right now, she always says, you know, it's not hoarding if you use it when it comes to using up her scrap pieces. So I like to keep all the little scrap pieces around, and you know, this is the perfect little use for those. So now I'm going to put my shutters on, and I am using the wood glue by Super Glue that you can buy at Dollar Tree. I just love this stuff. It does dry pretty quick, wood to wood, but it gives you enough time that you can move things around if you don't like them, and it will pop off for a little while. And now I'm going to add some little hinges and a little doorknob onto my door, and this house is completed. And I'll do the same thing with all three of the little houses that I'm using. Now the other three pieces that you see over to the right there are, one is going to be my base and the other two are going to be the roof, and those are all fence post pieces. So in total I think I might have used a half a fence post. Probably not even that much, but I'm going to continue decorating the little houses and getting their roofs on and getting ready to start putting this all together now. So since I didn't have any color on the sides, I'm going to take some white chalk paint and rustic that up a little bit and give that yellow just a little bit of additional white covering it. And now I'm going to put on my base and my two roof pieces, and then we will add on our little houses. Now, one of the things that I thought you could do with this is you could take some little eye hooks, actually those are cup hooks, and add them onto the bottom and make this a little key holder, or keychain holder. But here it is all nice and complete, and I just love the way it looks. It is just so adorable, and it's great to use up little scraps. And that'll bring us to project number 2. This is the one I referenced in last week's video. So we're going to need a crate and a little pallet thing from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use my little heat gun. This is just a little craft heat gun, and I'm going to kind of loosen up that glue a little bit so that I can use my screwdriver and pop those pieces off, and then I'm going to give them a good sand down once I get all the pieces popped off, and I will use all these pieces in these projects today. And then I took one of those little Dollar Tree, what are those, the little chalkboard signs. I have the clips on the back, and I popped the clip off, and now I'm going to give everything a nice little coat of antique wax, using my gloves, because this stuff doesn't wash off as easy as the paint. It does wash off, but I have to pick at it, especially when I get it under my nails. So now I'm going to use just hot glue this time, and I'm going to glue these two smaller pieces on as kind of the base to hold this, keep it from tipping over, because I am going to use these other two larger pieces to create a little sign. And at first I thought maybe I would cut this piece down, but then I thought it looked really cute, kind of crisscrossed over at the top, and we'll just bring it over so that it lines up with the side. And then I start doing this sign in this way, by using some jute and putting it around the sign, and then I will glue the jute twine onto the little sign, and then I take it apart because I decide I don't like the way the stain on the stain looks, and so I will paint it white. I don't remember if I showed you that I painted it white, but here I'm going to trim it all down and show you how I finished it off the first time. So I'm just going to glue these pieces of twine onto the back, and then I'm going to make little knots to give the appearance that, you know, a hole was drilled through, and those were placed on the back side. So I'll glue those little knots onto the back, and then I will move over to the front, and that's when I decide I don't like the way that looks, and I'll take it off, and we'll do it another way, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So I am going to take some of that hot glue again, and I am going to glue this 2 rungs down so that it stands good above the crate. Now what you didn't see on camera was I gave all the stained parts a little bit of whitewash, and I also painted that sign in white and took it off. So here I am creating a hanging basket. Now I cut 3 lengths of rope and tied them in a knot. And then I brought them around that little pot. Now that little pot is in the little garden section. There's wooden bigger pots and smaller pots at the Dollar Tree, and I glued them together. And now I'm going to create a little hanger with this piece of wire, and then I'm going to put this little plant inside. You can use whatever plant or flowers you want. That I just had this scrap left over from last week's projects, and now I am going to put an eye hook into the center of that cross where the 2 pieces come together, and I am going to hang my little hanging plant on there. Now I am going to drill holes through that little piece of wood, and I'm going to create a hanger out of some more wire for this. And here I'm taking those other pieces off and making sure they're secure. I will still use that wood rope or twine, and I'll hook my little hooks up underneath them. So here I am just going to fashion a little hook, wrapping that wire around and then putting it in there, making sure that it fits. And I will write welcome on this sign. And this project is just about complete. We'll hang up our little welcome sign, and I just think it turned out so cute, but it's missing something. Maybe it needs a little bird. So I found these, they were in like a 9 packet of little wood pieces, and the birds and some hearts and some butterflies. Bought those at Dollar Tree. And I am just painting the little bird yellow and giving his beak a little bit of black, and I'll glue him onto the top of my little welcome stand, and this project is complete. I think it turned out so adorable, and I'm going to set it by my front entry. I put some little chocolates in there, and I hope that it makes my guests feel welcome. I love it, and I hope that you love it too. If you like what you're seeing so far, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click the bell, and that'll bring us to project number 3. I have to say, of all the projects that I did this week, this one is my absolute favorite. Now, I took 2 2x4s and cut a roof line on either one. If you have a 4x4, you could cut a roof line on half and a roof line on half and not have to glue it together. But I'm using that wood glue by Super Glue from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue the 2 pieces together. And then my little workbench that I work on has a vice grip, so I'm going to grip that over there so that it all stays together and dries. And after it dries, I'm going to take some wood filler and fill in all the little cracks along the sides, along the roof line, and set that aside to dry while I work on the little fence post pickets here. So I'm going to make a little picket fence with some of these little craft sticks from Dollar Tree and my miter shears. I find the miter shears work better than scissors, for the simple fact that scissors a lot of times will cause these to splinter a little bit and you won't get a clean cut. And then I'm going to take my nail file and file them down so that I've got that fence post picket look. Once I've got 4 of those done, I am going to glue them together with another little stir stick and make it look like a fence. Get all the 4 fence pieces in, and I created 3 rungs down. Now I'm going to measure it, and I decided it was a little too big, so I'm going to use my miter shears and trim it down a little bit so that it fits just perfectly on the side of the house. And once I've got that all set, then I'm going to give it a nice little coat of chalk paint, and I am going to give, it's actually antique wax, and I'm going to give the roof an antique wax stained look as well. And once I've got that all done, I'll take my baby wipe and wipe off all the excess. Now I've already sanded off the excess wood filler, and so I'm going to give the whole thing a coat of white chalk paint. and then you're not going to see the lines as much, and it will look like a whole smooth transition of the two by fours. And once I've got that together, I'm going to make a little bench. So I took a dowel stick. Actually, I think this might be a little skewer stick from the barbecue section at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint the two pieces black that will hold up the seat, and then I'm going to give the seat a little coat of antique wax. And that seat was actually made out of a tumbling tower block. Now I'm going to be cutting another piece of that paint stir stick for a door and giving it a coat of antique wax as well. Now I'm going to create some windows, similar to the way I did that other piece, only I'm going to use a straight edge to make sure that my windows are relatively even on both sides and give them a nice coloring in with that Sharpie marker. And then I will create some upper windows and give those a nice little coloring in as well with that Sharpie marker. Now I drew them with the fine, extra fine tip, and I'm coloring them in with the larger Sharpie marker. And I didn't like the coverage it gave, so I took my tiny brush and some black chalk paint in the color ink, and I am giving those a good coloring in and kind of squaring them up a little bit. And now I'm going to take an extra scrap piece I had and create a window on it, and then paint it in white, and we'll put that on the roof line, kind of like a dormer window. And then I gave my door a little knob, and now I'm going to create some little pieces to be used as shutters. And you can see how I'm using up all these scraps today. These scraps are also pieces from that paint stir stick. And now I'm going to use my little tape method and put all the little tiny pieces on a piece of tape. And once I've gotten those all sanded down, I am going to give those a little coat of antique wax, and we are going to rustic these up with some other colors as well, some white and a little bit of that pool color, and just give them that cottagey, actually I guess I used moss not pool, and we're going to give them that cottagey look. And then I sanded them down, and now we're going to be adding them around our windows, all the way around the house, all the way around the front of the house, because that's really the only place I put the shutters, because I only have one window on the side of the house anyhow. And now we're going to add our little dormer window up there, and the house is coming together. I decided it needed a little something extra, so I'm going to take some little scraps here, and I cut it to a size for a window box, and then I'm going to take a little piece off, and we're going to glue that to the back side. So here I'm showing you just a tiny little piece off, and then we're going to glue that on the back side, and that'll be the box piece where the flowers will sit. So we'll give that a nice little sand off and kind of flatten those edges out a little bit, and we will, here's where I glue that piece right on there to make the little box, and I'll show you here in just 1 second. So there's the little box piece. And now we are going to do the same for the other window, and then we will give these a nice little coat of antique wax and stain them up a little bit. And then we're going to find some little scrap flowers, and you can just pull whatever flowers you want, and I trimmed them way down so that they would fit inside the box and not cover up my whole window. And we'll use some hot glue and glue those inside the flower box. Now don't get rid of those little green stems that you're cutting off that you see up at the top, because we're going to make those into a bush. So here we are, just a little bit of hot glue, and we're going to add those flowers in just one at a time. The little strands from that glue just get everywhere, and they get all stuck in my fingers, and then they were getting stuck in the window box. But we're going to go ahead and and give this a little bit more hot glue and put in a second layer. So I just took those flowers, as you can see, down to tiny, tiny pieces, and just so they would set on top of that little ledge we created as the box. And once I get this done, then I will give it another little coat of hot glue, and we will glue this up underneath the window. We have completed both flower boxes. We are going to take one of these little hearts on a skewer from Dollar Tree from Valentine's Day, and I cut off the skewer and I cut the heart in half with my miter shears, and I'm going to give it a white coat of paint, and we're going to use that as our little door wreath. Now I'm going to glue on my legs to my little tumbling tower block bench, and we're going to start getting this all put together. Now I thought it might need a little tree or something, a little flowering tree, so I grabbed some eucalyptus pieces that I had, just, scrap pieces. I don't even think they were from the same pick. One might have been from Dollar Tree and the other from Walmart maybe. And then I took some of these pink flowers that I got from Dollar Tree and I cut them off, and I'm gonna cut them down into individual pieces, and then I'm going to glue them to each piece of eucalyptus, and then we will glue the eucalyptus together. That way we have kind of a flowering tree. You have to be careful as you're gluing these pieces together though, because the hot glue gun on a hot temperature glue actually can melt some of that plastic, and of course it gets hot and you've got plastic dripping down or glue dripping down in the plastic. So then I pulled out my little handy dandy spatula there. Now I'm gluing the two pieces together, and then I have some of this floral tape from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to wrap that around those two wire pieces. And had I thought of this ahead of time, I would have actually folded the wire now and wrapped it once, but I'll end up wrapping it twice, because I decided the tree was too tall, and in order to make a nice big trunk I needed to fold that wire up. And so then I'll add a little bit of hot glue and wrap it again, to make sure that we have that big trunk. And I brought out some other floral wire. I wasn't sure if I was going to use that or not, but this floral tape worked really well. And so we're just going to give it a nice little twist of that floral tape, and then I'm going to add some super glue onto the bottom. I used Gorilla Super Glue onto the bottom of this base of my trunk, and I am going to put it up there to the house on the left, and I'll hold it there for a minute. And then I decided, which I didn't show on camera, to just glue a couple of those leaves down to the house, and that helped to hold it up. Now I'm going to start adding all the pieces together. I've got the little bench in there now, and we're going to glue the house down, and we're going to add in our little picket fence and put that along the side. And here's those scrap pieces from earlier, and we are gluing them together to make a little bush. We'll set that in front of the bench. And then I've got one more surprise for you. I am going to create a little wire bicycle. Now, if you watched last week's video, you saw me do a little bit of wire art using a continuous line drawing. And so I found a continuous line bicycle, and I shrunk it down to a size that was going to be the right size for this bicycle, or for this fence to sit on the side of this house. And I am just using the black wire that you find at Dollar Tree in the little automotive section. I'm almost out of this, and I haven't been able to find any more of it, and I am just running it along that design, creating this little piece of wire art. Now, if you want a full tutorial, I will link last week's video at the end, and you'll be able to see the wire tulip I created. And now I'm going to add just a little bit of hot glue and glue that tire together so that it does look like a bicycle, and turn it around, and then we'll get that on there. And then I thought it needed one more thing, so I grabbed another one of these little flower pots from the Dollar Tree, and I trimmed it down because it was too tall. It was hiding my bicycle. And then I added in some scrap florals that I had left over from last week's video, and I'm going to glue those inside my little flower pot and then glue the flower pot on next to the house and glue the bicycle on, and this project will be complete. I am just so in love with this little house, and I'm not sure where I'm going to display it yet, but it will be part of my everyday decor. I decided my cottage needed a name, and so we are naming it Cass Cottage. Isn't that so stinking cute? I just love it. I hope you do too. Look at all the fun details of something that was made totally from scraps. It's just crazy to me how you can just take scrap pieces that somebody else might have thrown away and put them all together and come up with something so beautiful. What do you think? Do you have some craft scraps laying around that you could turn into something beautiful? And that will bring us to our final project, project number 4. I I know I've said this about everything, but I just love these. And this is all old fence pieces and little craft sticks. Right now I'm sifting through all my little craft scrap pieces and trying to decide. I wanted 3 houses, trying to decide what shape and how big and what's going to fit on there. And then I'll take my miter box and my miter saw and I will trim them down and cut little roofs on them. And then I discovered that my miter shears actually went through this old fence post, and so I'm going to use my miter shears. It went a lot quicker than that miter saw with the miter box, but depending on what you have, that's what you use. And so we're going to give that a nice little sand down, and then these are pieces left over from that the second project, and so we're going to use those for the roof line, and I will cut those using my miter shears, and then we will bring out some of these scrap pieces that we have to make little roofs out of those craft sticks. I think these are actually called paint stir sticks because they're a little wider than the craft sticks that you buy at Dollar Tree. I haven't been able to find the wide ones. I know you can find both the wide ones and the skinny ones, but I think I actually bought these at Home Depot, and it was $1 for a whole, big container of them. So I am just measuring down pieces and cutting them with miter shears, and then we're going to give everything a nice little coat of antique wax because that's a nice base for making it all look rustic and aged. And then we're going to start putting the pieces together. Now I'm making 2 of these, and I wanted them to be mirror images of each other because I'm going to hang these by my front door at my house, and I wanted to be able to have 2. So I am going to glue this base down, and then that will give me a place to secure my hooks. Now I did buy these little heart hooks at Hobby Lobby. They were $3 each. So this whole project, other than scraps, cost me $6. And for the back side, I'm going to be using some little hooks that I took off other Dollar Tree projects when I made them before. And now we're just rusticking up and aging these little wood pieces, and we're going to give them a little red this time. And like I said, you can age it with a little bit of antique wax, a little bit of paint, a little bit of sanding, a little bit more of paint, a little bit more of sanding, and if you mess it up, no worries, just sand it off and start over again. So I've used the moss color and the white color and the pool color, all of those chalk paints by Waverly, and then that red color is from Michael's, I believe, their craft square chalk paint, whatever it is. And I don't remember what color red that is, but whatever red you have. And you can make it darker or lighter depending on, whether you add white to it or a dark brown. And then I'm also going to add in a little bit of the cashew color for this one. So now I'm taking some more of those scraps and I'm making little doors and just a little snip and a little sand, and we've made the perfect little door. Now I'm going to use my handy dandy desk vacuum and clean up my mess a little bit and bring out the paint. I am going to mix some of that red because it's a little too bright. It's more of like a Christmas red with some cashew and kind of tone it down a little bit. And then we're going to add in a little bit of white to this door. I decided the cashew might be a good color for some of these other doors. And so we're just going to, mix and match some paint until we get it how we want it to look. See, I just took a little bit of that red from the baby wipe I was using to clean up the paint and gave it another little rustic color. So now we're going to start gluing all the pieces together. We've got our roofs on, we've got our doors on. Now we need to draw some windows. And this time, instead of my Sharpie marker, I decided to just use my little tiny paintbrush and a little bit of ink chalk paint. And we're going to put some knobs on our doors. And then we'll add in some little windows and just finish up these little cottages with the details. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but on the two middle pieces with the roofs, I left them a little flared out, not realizing that I had fit them so that they all fit close together, and I will have to cut those off. So here I'm going to add a good amount of that wood super glue from Dollar Tree and get these all stuck down to my bases. You'd think as much of this wood glue as I used in this video that it would be empty, but I still have more than a half a bottle left. Here I am trimming off those roof pieces as I figured out that they were going to be too long sitting on there, and then we'll get those glued on, and once that part is done, we will take some leftover pieces, scraps as you will, little hangers that I've taken off other projects, and we're going to put those on the back so that these have a place to hang. I'll just screw those on, no holes needed. The wood is soft enough that they just screw together, and then we'll turn those over, and I'm going to take some other scrap black screws that I had and screw my little hooks on there and do that to the other one too, and this project is complete. And I just think it is so adorable and just gives that whole rustic kind of beachy vibe. So what was your favorite project today? Leave me a comment below. And here it is with a dish towel hanging on it. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I really did enjoy our time together. Now, for those of you who stuck around to the very end, I've got a hint on one of next week's projects. You are going to need some logs, some rope from Dollar Tree, and 3 solar lights, also from Dollar Tree. But until then, make it a great day and Happy Tuesday!